Hong Kong is a renowned tech hub with brilliant ideas, so it shouldn't come as a surprise that we offer up great solutions to some of the biggest problems we face today. Let's start at an R&D facility that is working on some remarkable tech to address fashion's most glaring issues. Yancy, what else can you tell us?
The fashion industry, I bet, isn't the first that comes to mind as the super user for fossil fuel. However, did you know it accounts for 10% of the global carbon emission output, which is international flights and shipment combined together. However, recently, under the global pandemic, I had a spring clean out, and I realized that I never wore a few of my pieces of clothing, which is very common in Hong Kong. So today I'll be talking to a few people who are leading the circular solution in the fashion industry and see the efforts of how they use technology to create a greener future. So Edwin, how did you enter the Research Institute for Textiles and Apparel?
Accidentally. I was for many years in this industry as a practitioner. I ran a lot of global supply chains. And then I decided I wanted to spend some time on research, just to understand some of the principles behind what we're doing. And then the government invited me to run this research center. I wanted to understand some of the challenges for the industry. Why are we facing some of the issues? What issues our current practices or business models are creating for the environment, for the world, and how can we do it better?
And I think the demand for fast fashion has increased dramatically over the 10 years.
Yes, a lot of brands have discovered that if they sell more stuff, they make more money. Right? So the volume of business for the fashion industry has spiked incredibly the last 20 years.
Like fashion cycles are so much shorter now.
Exactly.
It used to be like every quarter, now it's like every 1 month.
We tend to throw away a lot more than we used to, and we hang on to clothes a lot shorter.
And then this is where you come in.
Well, part of the mission for the research center is to look at some of the challenges. For example, circularity and sustainability. The clothes that we wear are made from materials that are actually quite durable. So whereas the fashion cycles have accelerated, we actually are throwing away a lot of very useful materials they're quite valuable. So can we use those again? There are other sources of fibers. In this institute, we've looked at things like food waste. We've looked at things like other types of waste materials and other agricultural waste as sources of new fibers for us to use.
And that's what you do here.
Well, this is one experiment. So this is a biological separation and breakdown recycling technology. We're trying to break down and get useful things out of waste materials using fermentations and enzymes and other biological processes. We also use chemical mechanical recycling as well as pioneering a new type of recycling called what we call a hydrothermal system.
I noticed there are some algae behind me. Can you explain a bit about this?
This is part of a group of projects that we are doing. First, we're looking at ways to treat wastewater. We are growing some algae and we're selectively developing them so that they actually use dye stuff and other waste that we produce as food. So you can see it getting clearer and better. We're also looking at saltwater-based solutions for fiber. You know, if we can grow seaweeds and things like that we can substitute for cotton, it is also there's some opportunities there. And then water processing or wastewater treatment in general is something that we're very interested in.
Yes, because I know a factory, like a single factory dyeing a fabric, they use around 200 tons of fresh water just to dye one fabric. So that's a lot of toxic waste.
What we're trying to do is to create solutions so that we don't create those waste
in the first place.
In the first place.
But I know you do B2B. You license your technology to big brands and manufacturers.
Manufacturers, big brands, any stakeholder in the industry, we are not discriminating about who we work with. And in fact, in certain projects, we try to create open research platforms so that all the stakeholders can work together and come up with a solution that is beneficial to everybody.
Here, what we do is we recycle garment to garment, where customer can bring in one piece of garment. We recycle it, and then need a new piece of garment for the customer. When the customer bring in a piece of garment, we will put it into this machine for sanitization to make sure that the garment is clean and good enough for our subsequent recycling process.
Right.
This machine is for opening up the garment and breaking it into yarns and fibers. We try to open it into fibers. And then here we have a technology using a computer vision system on how we did in the opening process. If the opening process is not yet completed, it will send all the intermediate material back to that feeding chute, and we will do the entire opening process again. Those ones that are ready, it will be sent to the next machine. This is the carding machine, where we have a clump of fibers, and then it will be combed into a same direction, approximately aligned to each other. And they will form a sliver from here, where we will do drawing later in the next step. These are the slivers formed by that machine, where you can see all the fibers are combed in the same direction.
Yeah.
What we're doing here is to have multiple slivers from that machine and mix together into one single one, so that the whole outcome sliver is consistent. This is called a roving machine,
Okay.
where we convert the sliver into a roving. A roving is like this.
So this is the thinner
This
one.
is, yes, this is the thinner one for the spinning process later. This is called a ring spinning machine. We have 12 spindles actually, all work together to form yarns. This is a winding machine where
It becomes like threads, right?
Yes, the threads are then winded together to form a winded yarn. This machine has two functions.
Okay.
One function is to combine two yarns into a single yarn to give it more strength. Because recycled yarn usually are slightly weaker. First, we combine two yarns, so we call that doubling. And then here, we do a twisting. Okay, we will twist the yarn to increase even more strength to make it suitable for knitting. So the last step is this knitting machine. It's a 3D knitting machine where we can put in a pattern with the sweater design here, and then we will input into the machine, and it will knit it. One whole piece of finished garment will come out. Because the entire process, we design it to be waterless. So the environmental impact will be very low. The only impact involved is the electricity that needs to run all these machines.
I see. So like just as I said earlier, I mean, a client can bring their old clothes that they might have like some sentimental values to it.
There was one case where there was a girl who brought in a blanket. The blanket where, you know, the babies like to have the blanket. She has been using
her
it.
baby's blanket.
Yes,
That's
she has
so
been using it
cute.
for her entire life, and then it was very valuable to her,
yeah.
meaningful to her, so that she brought it in, and we recover the fibers for her, and then recycle it into a scarf for her. So I think this is a very interesting application for this system. The most important factor of this setup here is for educational purpose, to educate the public, letting the public know where they can take part in this sustainability push.
Where do you see the future of this technology?
We'll create many more similar versions of this system in the world. We actually already have a partner which set up a similar system in Sweden to showcase the technology behind. We also plan to push this showcase in Europe and in Asia and in America as well.
Sustainable fashion has been increasing over the years. Today's experience has been eye-opening. Not only did I learn that technology can reduce carbon footprints, but also I learned how to renew old clothes. So, next time I do my spring cleaning, I don't only have the option to donate it, but I also have the option to give it a second life.
We're back and in Chunwan. So Darren, what else is the city doing to help maintain the health of our planet?
Out with the old, in with the new. That is the Hong Kong way. And while that's been good for business, well, it hasn't been so good for our heritage and culture. It's an inconvenient truth, but I know that we've definitely made some sacrifices along the way over the years. However, nowadays, having the latest and the greatest is not enough anymore. As human beings, we have become much more aware and we've put a lot more emphasis on how our present actions can affect the future generations as well. Now, I've been told that there are people out there who can balance progress with sustainability without sacrificing heritage. Sounds too good to be true? Yeah, I think so too. How can a city be profitable and sustainable? Well, let's find out more at today's event.
The proper infrastructure needs to be in place so that we can all live prosperously. But we need leaders in all walks of life to take the first step. So where do we start, Darren?
Mr. Choi, so we're talking about sustainability today. I'm interested to get your view in terms of the responsibility of big companies. What is their responsibility? How are they pushing this sustainability to the forefront?
Obviously, sustainability is, something that our corporations very much, embedded in our DNA already. We have these 3 Ps: people, planet, and prosperity, which means that we are not only going to make the projects an economic successful one, but it is also going to be people-centric, making positive social impact, as well as protect our planet for our next generation. What we are doing right now, just in Chunwan, underneath our headquarters, is such a project. It's what we call the Lina Park. We are trying to reposition the park, actually become a community space where people will enjoy the park-like environment. Children, elderly, all walks of life can come into the park and enjoy the exhibition, which we have a big collection of wood fossil, which I think tell the meaning of time very well. Fossil, right? It looks like organic wood.
Yeah, it just looks like a piece of wood.
Exactly, but this is a fossil. After millions of years, actually, it changed the materiality of the organic wood into something else. And this is what time is all about.
To be honest, traditionally, companies, especially in Hong Kong, profit comes first. So do you sense that, for example, the company that you're at, is there a change, is there a transformation with this sustainability?
Well, I think what we are talking about is not that we are not concerned about economic return. However, we are not looking at a very short-term profit. We are looking at creating long-lasting shareholders' value. We are looking at a company that will be doing business, decades from now, 100 years from now, and actually getting the respect from the community that we have worked in.
So, can you tell me a little bit about your relationship with Lina Park?
In fact, we were contacted by them that they have a renovation in the park and they want to recycle 50 pieces of trees. And then because it's our business that we capture these salvage timber and then we make it into products. So we want to get these trees and of course make it into furniture later. But also it was just a good chance that we can really try to know how these trees in 15, 16 years time, how they have been growing and how much carbon dioxide has they actually taken into these little creatures. And we take samples from each of these trees and then we try to process it and try to send it to the laboratory. And we try to find out how much carbon dioxide in these samples. And then we calculate as a kind of whole mass of entire tree. We can try to find out actually how these trees perform individually.
So what do you do with that data?
Well, then I will know that actually there could be some kind of trees that they take more carbon dioxide, some kind of them do not. They take less. So we want to know if we are going to plant trees today, what kind of tree do we want to plant? After 20 years, some work more, some work less. We have limited resources of land, so we want to know what kind of effective measure that we can take.
You're really kind of changing the face of gardening, aren't you?
I think this is one of the aspects we really can consider in the future. Except, okay, it has yellow flowers, red flowers.
They shouldn't just be there to be looked at.
Yes.
they should be helping nature and increasing sustainability as well.
Yeah, taking more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is something that we should, look into, right?
So, Mr. Wong, I have the most basic question first. What is a green building and how does it help with the sustainability movement?
Okay. Climate change is a global crisis, and green building can help to decarbonize, i.e. integrating renewable energy, save energy in green buildings, also support green transport and help reduce waste. So it's a very important pillar when we talk about our journey towards carbon neutrality.
Yes. And where do you think that starts?
Everyone has to help, including the government, companies, and also individuals. For instance, the government in the past set a green energy target. That means for all the government buildings and infrastructures, in total, improve 6% in 5 years. And we are working with the large companies, ask them to become our carbon neutrality partners to set their respective carbon neutrality roadmap. And individuals can reduce energy consumption at home and also help reduce waste and support clean recycling.
I know traditionally construction hasn't always been the cleanest industries. How are you guys tackling that?
So the construction industry has been around for millennia. And one of the things we're trying to do is modernize the image of the industry and drag it kicking and screaming into the 21st century. And we obviously take the designs that come from the architects and the engineering firms, and then we first of all apply a layer of digital to what we do. So look at how we can optimize what the engineers and what the designer has done. Then we look at how we bring, through procurement, green materials and hire better performing materials into our projects.
I mean, traditionally, where do you see the biggest sort of waste is in construction?
The biggest waste in terms of what ends up in the landfill is through the change process and also the inefficiency of the way we do things. If we're able to take that from the site to the factory, then we're obviously able to optimize our use of materials as well. So there's really different and multifaceted approach in terms of how we deal with waste in itself, and also in terms of what material you use to build with. That way you can even reduce waste just by selecting the right type of material.
Why do you think this is important? I mean, sustainability obviously as in the world, globally is important, but especially in construction, why do you think that's important?
I think it's particularly important because it's something that we leave behind for a very long time. A building asset life cycle could be anywhere from 50 years, above 50 years. And so what we do right now continues to have an impact. Within the construction industry, we've obviously created a lot of problems with regard to energy efficient buildings or lack of energy efficient buildings. How we change that around, and even in terms of going back into some existing facilities, we can optimize the performance. So just because something's finished doesn't mean to say we can't improve it. And the key thing is, what we've got to do is fix things for the next generation and the generations thereafter.
So, in a growing city like Hong Kong, there is always a lot of urban planning, right?
Yes.
But does that come in expense of, say, heritage sites?
I think preserving heritage is of growing concern in Hong Kong, particularly during the past when Hong Kong, well, due to the shortage of land and the development intensity, a lot of very memorable historic buildings were demolished.
They have to be sacrificed.
And gone. Right. But in my opinion, I don't think there is a necessary conflict between development and heritage conservation as far as planning is concerned.
But in terms of the design of these heritage sites, with sustainability in mind nowadays, is there a way to make them sort of greener, more sustainable? Is there such a thing as a green heritage site?
By revitalization and renovation, you can always make it, well, if not the greenest, at least greener.
Yeah.
For example, in Central Market, you know, the 80-year-old building, when we did the revitalization, so we also utilize some green technology. We use a zero irrigation system, so you use rainwater to plant the trees. Use solar PV panel to generate some of the electricity. We promote natural ventilation by installing some very low-speed, high-volume fans, so you don't rely on air conditioning.
As much.
as much.
Yeah.
So, and very smart sensor to sense the light intensity of outside, so you control the lighting level.
Okay.
Well, actually, keeping a building as it is without demolishing it is already quite a green act, because you are reducing demolition construction waste. So you're recycling the building, you reuse the building. So by conservation itself is actually a sustainable act.
Buildings provide us with historical context. It tells us how people used to live. In fact, it's kind of like a giant time capsule, except it shouldn't need to be buried into the ground for people to discover. Today, after speaking to numerous people, I've discovered that with the right infrastructure from the government, with the financial backings from the big companies, along with the know-how of the local architects, we can find newer and better way of doing things. So like I said, out with the old, in with the new, that is the Hong Kong way. And if today's direction is anything to go by, I think Hong Kong's famous skyline is in wonderful hands.